An incredible Marine's early return exposed a hidden truth. What the nanny said will transform you. The door creaked open, and Sergeant Jack Thompson stepped into his home, the smell of fresh paint lingering in the air. He stood in the doorway, taking a moment to savor the joy of returning to Laura, his wife, and their 2 young kids. The warmth of his family enveloped him as he spread his arms wide. "I'm home," he called out, his chest swelling with pride. But the silence that followed sliced through the moment, an unsettling chill settling in the pit of his stomach. The children, once dancing toward him with glee, hesitated, their eyes flickering to the kitchen where Ms. Clara, their nanny, was chopping vegetables. Jack felt an unexpected jolt of unworthiness in their affection. Clara's presence filled a void he hadn't anticipated. She moved seamlessly among them, laughter shared, secrets whispered, moments cherished. What was meant to be a jubilant reunion felt more like stepping onto a stage where he was a mere understudy. As the evening dragged on, Jack watched Clara with careful dread. She tucked his son into bed, her gentle hands brushing through his hair with familiarity that made his heart clench. Jack had envisioned coming home to a family ready to enshrine him as their hero, but instead, he felt like a ghost haunting a house no longer his. The shadows of duty had kept him far too long, and as he descended into internal turmoil, he could feel the chasm widening between him and Laura, too. Days turned into uneasy nights. He sought conversations with Clara, believing he was merely being thorough. But every exchange chipped away at his confidence, unearthed hidden struggles he couldn't fathom. "Laura's been stretched thin, Jack. She needs more than just a provider," Clara confided one night. The words stabbed at Jack, igniting a complex storm. Wasn't that exactly what he was trained to be? And here he was, a warrior battling abroad while Clara had taken up the mantle of nurturing, a role he assumed would perpetually be his. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Without giving voice to his confusion, Jack found himself pacing through the house, questions buzzing through his mind like angry bees. Loyalty twisted within him, an unholy alliance forming between resentment and desire to protect his family. The revelation about Laura's past gripped Jack in ways he never anticipated. Clara had learned of struggles he thought long buried, the kind that could unravel their present. As Laura's whispers and fears echoed across their home, Jack felt the ground shake beneath him, and then, the storm broke. An unexpected emergency loomed, a crisis demanding choices that would test their fragile unity. Standing at the brink, Jack faced an impossible dilemma: reclaim the place he believed was his by right, or yield to the support that Clara had unwittingly built around his family. Paralyzed by the weight of his own identity, determination battled anguish as he stood at the threshold of his family's future. Would he dare confront Clara, ultimately seeking a path toward collaboration, or would he bury himself in traditional views that had eroded over time? As he took a deep breath, words hung in the air, unsaid yet thunderous, leaving Jack poised for the confrontation of a lifetime. Jack had spent restless nights replaying the words Clara had spoken. Ignoring their weight was no longer an option. They burrowed into his thoughts like unwanted tenants. She needs more than just a provider. The truth gnawed at him, a relentless reminder of the chasm he felt widening between his family and himself. Deciding it was time for clarity, Jack straightened his back, taking several deep breaths before stepping into the living room, where the light from the lamp flickered, casting shadows that danced eerily along the walls. He spotted Clara tidying up the playroom, a serene picture of domesticity that felt foreign yet inviting. His pulse quickened, and he knew he had to confront this unease, but the thought of doing so filled him with dread. "Clara," he began, his voice catching. She turned, her gaze steady but filled with an empathy that stung. "Can we talk for a moment? Just us?" "Of course," she replied, setting aside a toy. The shift in the atmosphere was palpable. It felt as if the very walls of the house were holding their breath. His heart raced as he urged himself to articulate his feelings. "I've been struggling with everything since I got back. This whole situation, His hand gestured around the familiar yet strange space. "This dynamic. I'm not sure how to fit back in. I thought coming home would mean—" "The hero's welcome?" Clara interjected gently, her tone non-judgmental but firm. "Yeah." The admission hung between them, heavy and raw. "You've stepped into a role I thought I'd always have, and I don't know how to reclaim it without stepping on anyone's toes." "Jack, you can't reclaim something you've been absent from. It's about building something new together," she urged, her voice a soft but unwavering sound. "Laura needs to be more than just a mother, and you more than just a provider. You need to communicate instead of battling." Clara's words were sharp, penetrating through his protective layers. It wasn't just about asserting dominance, but forging a new path. He felt a flicker of awareness ignite within him. Maybe collaboration didn't equal weakness, but strength. "I understand what you're saying," Jack responded slowly, letting the words tumble out carefully. "But I'm not sure I'm ready to let go of how I've defined my role." The hesitation in his voice was palpable, reflecting his inner turmoil. "What if you let go of expectations?" Clara paused, letting the question sink in. "What if you allow yourself the freedom to redefine who you are, based on what you want, not on who you think you should be?" As Clara's words resonated within him, Jack couldn't shake the image of his family's faces reflecting disappointment mingled with love. Suddenly, he realized he'd been measuring his worth through a narrow lens, one that only cramped his ability to adapt. With a surge of resolve, he straightened his posture. "I want to be an integral part of this family's everyday life, not just the man who provides from afar, but present, emotionally, and physically." A warmth spread through him at his commitment, an unfamiliar sense of empowerment. A small smile crested Clara's lips, her earlier worry seemingly lifting. "Then you'll need to be vulnerable to both Laura and the kids. Show them that you're more than a soldier. You're their husband, their father." Jack exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of those words. How his heart raced. The battle was not only for acceptance, but for his own conception of identity, a hybrid Jack who could merge duty with emotional presence. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was a path he was eager to explore. He turned on his heels, ready to seek out Laura, to express the sides of him that were so long neglected. But as he reached the hallway, Clara's voice stopped him once more. "Jack," she called softly, "remember, this is not just about reclaiming ground. It's about constructing a bridge. A bridge might take time, but it's where powerful connections are forged." A knot tightened in his throat as her words lingered. Discomfort mingled with determination in his chest, and he headed towards his wife, nerves shooting through him. He would have to face uncomfortable truths, revelations that would ultimately redefine his sense of self. Now armed with the knowledge that vulnerability was strength, he paused at the bedroom door. It swung open, the moment pregnant with promise and fear. But what awaited him would require a deeper confrontation of all that lay beneath the surface of their strained relationship. Would Laura be ready to join him on this journey of rebuilding their connection? As anticipation swirled within him, he couldn't shake a new thought. Perhaps it was time to unravel another layer of his own identity, as he fought to become the man he had always wanted to be. Jack inhaled deeply, his pulse pounding against the confines of uncertainty. The door swung slightly wider, a literal threshold between what had been and what could be. As he stepped inside the dimly lit room, he braced himself for the emotional landscape that lay ahead. Laura was perched on the edge of the bed, their bed, a sanctuary now bearing the weight of unspoken dialogues and lingering resentments. Her fingers absent-mindedly toyed with the comforter, and Jack noticed the subtle furrow line etched across her forehead. What was she thinking? Did she share the anguish that churned within him? "Hey," he said softly, hesitant but determined, his voice barely penetrating the still air. Laura looked up, her expression a mixture of surprise and guarded hope. "Hi," she replied, her tone cautiously inviting. He took a seat beside her, forcing the distance to dissolve. "I've been doing a lot of thinking," he admitted, feeling exposed like a soldier abruptly stripping off his armor. About us, how I've been away, and what that has meant for you and the kids. She shifted slightly, her posture relaxing, but a glimmer of apprehension lingered in her eyes. Jack, it's been hard. You weren't just gone, you were absent in more ways than one. The truth stung, yet it resonated with what Clara had said. He could choose to get defensive, to retreat back into the wall he had built around himself, but he sensed it was time to dismantle it instead. I know, he said at last. I've been stuck in the mindset of being the provider, focusing on my role as the man of the house, rather than engaging with you and what you both need. Laura searched his face, searching for signs of sincerity, and as their eyes locked, Jack felt the weight of expectations pressing down. What do you need from me, Laura? I can't promise I'll get it right every time, but I'm committed to being here, to being present. A silence enveloped them as she carefully considered her response. I need to know that I'm not the only one navigating this. The kids need to see you as more than a figure in the background. They need to feel you in their lives, she responded, her voice steadier than he expected. He nodded, absorbing her words. His mind trembled with the realization of how solitary he had made both their lives by sticking to outdated notions of masculinity. Vulnerability was a terrifying space, yet it was essential if he was to bridge the gap that had formed. It's true. I've relied too heavily on my past role, but I want to grow into something more dynamic. I need to learn from you as much as I want you to be okay with me. As he spoke, he could sense a shift. The tension seemed to lift, if only slightly, as they began to tread into murky waters that had lain undiscovered for too long. Laura's mouth curled into a tentative smile, yet uncertainty still clouded her eyes. Jack, this is a two-way street. I want to work with you, but it has to be a genuine effort from both sides. Her condition hung between them like a thread, thin but elastic, ready to snap if pulled too tight. The pressure was palpable, yet it was also a call to action. I'm ready, he declared, confident in a way that felt foreign but liberating. Not just for myself, but for the family we are building together. Let's not dwell on what's lost, but on what can be constructed anew. Jack leaned forward, eager to erase the distance that had often felt insurmountable. A tingle of hope surged through him, wrapping tightly around the fear that had lived alongside it. And I want to be transparent with you, he added, realizing that complete honesty was his weapon against the remnants of their past. I'm scared. Scared of failing you again, but terrified of not trying. Laura, taken aback, processed his openness, the faintest flicker of warmth cushioning the edges of her expression. Fear can be a motivator, Jack, she said slowly. But so can love. With her words sowing common ground, he felt the distance further close, giving rise to the promise of a more meaningful partnership. Yet beneath the threads of conversation lay an unsettling question, almost lurking. What obstacles awaited them that could test the sincerity of their commitment? He hadn't healed alone. What aspects of her experience could prove difficult to navigate? He contemplated these uncertainties, caught between budding progress and the anxiety of setbacks. Still, he knew the potential for resolution was already rewriting his identity. The conversation had sown seeds for deeper explorations of their past. Yet as footsteps echoed from the hallway, he felt the looming presence of their children, an undeniable reminder of shared responsibilities. How would they react to this newfound sincerity? With a determined breath, Jack prepared to step into the next chapter, one that held the prospect of unifying their fractured family and discovering the unexpected challenges that lay ahead. Would this openness usher in a transformation for them all, or would it expose more fissures in their fragile attempts at harmony? As footsteps approached, Jack felt a rush of anticipation coiling tightly within him. Meeting Laura's gaze one last time, he shared a silent promise, a commitment to forge ahead together. He straightened his shoulders and took a steadying breath, ready to embrace whatever moment awaited them. The door swung open, revealing their 10-year-old son Billy, his bright blue eyes gleaming with a mix of curiosity and childlike understanding. "Dad, you're home early," he exclaimed, running into the room, his joy palpable. Behind him trailed Lily, their 6-year-old daughter, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. Her expression was cautious, her small frame caught between excitement and trepidation. "Hey, buddy," Jack replied, a smile spreading across his face, mingling joy with the underlying tension that still simmered in the room. "I am home early. I wanted to spend some time with you both. Are we going to do something fun?" Billy's voice rang with hopeful enthusiasm. Jack was reminded of how the pleasure of engaging with their children had slipped from him, replaced by burdensome obligations. Lily, still hesitant, took a few steps into the room, her wide eyes darting between Jack and Laura. There it was again, the sense that they needed to redefine not just who they were to one another, but how they could be a family. "Are you staying for dinner?" she asked, her soft voice almost a whisper. "Absolutely," Jack said, feeling the warmth of her speculation wrap around him like a blanket. "I wouldn't miss it for anything. What's on the menu?" "I think we're having spaghetti," Billy said, bouncing on his heels, "and breadsticks." "Yum! My favorite," Jack encouraged, recalling the childhood comforts that food had often brought him. But before he could be swept away by the joyful chatter, he caught a glimpse of Laura, her smile tinged with apprehension. The children, in their innocence, were blissfully unaware of the delicate balance they were all trying to navigate. "Why don't you both go wash your hands?" Laura suggested gently, her voice light yet firm, drawing the kids' attention. "I'll finish setting the table." As they scampered into the bathroom, Jack felt the weight of silence creep back into the air. "This is new," he said, glancing at Laura. "They seem excited." "Maybe they're sensing something," she replied, her tone measured. "But it also feels like there's so much they don't know. We have to guide them through this together." He nodded, feeling a flicker of anxiety. How much could he share? How much should they protect their children from? "I want them to understand that we're working on us, but I don't want to burden them." "Honesty is key," Laura said thoughtfully, her expression softening. "We can be straightforward without overwhelming them. They need to know they're safe, to express themselves even through uncertainty." The plan began to form in his mind, a tentative outline of how to incorporate their children into this budding narrative of transparency. His own childhood loomed like a shadow, filled with unspoken tensions and feelings pushed beneath the surface. He didn't want to repeat those patterns in his family. Just as he felt resolute, his thoughts drifted back to a conversation he'd had with Clara not long ago. What if we included them in the process, not as a burden, but as partners in this family? Her words echoed in his mind, and he contemplated sharing the dynamics of their effort with the children. Jack took a deep breath, thoughtful. "We could hold a family meeting," he suggested, testing the waters. "Not just about the present, but about how we want our family to grow and change." Laura's eyes widened in surprise, but something else ignited there, a spark of curiosity and hope. "A family meeting? That's actually a great idea. It'll be all of our experiences that shape us, not just our failures," he added, conviction rimming his voice. "I want them to know their feelings matter, to see us as equal partners in this family. Let's do it tonight after dinner." The tension between them melted further, the challenge ahead transforming into a shared mission. As their children returned, laughter blossoming from their voices as they recounted their imagined adventure of pirates on the high seas, Jack could feel a shift happening, tiny, yet undeniable. It was beyond time to redeem his presence, not just as a father, but as a guide. Yet along with the optimism came a nagging doubt. Would the children accept this sincerity? Could they navigate the terrain of a family transformed through vulnerability? Jack watched them, determination solidifying within him. He was ready to try, ready to confront the shadows that had lingered far too long. This was not merely a step forward. It was a commitment to a future they would build together. What remained to be seen was how open they would be to confronting the hidden truths they had danced around for so long. The potential for revelation hung in the air, volatile yet transformative, ready to explode into an unpredictable lesson on familial love and resilience. As the lively chatter from the children filled the space, Jack's mind spun with anticipation. How would the family meeting unfold? Would his vision of honesty and collaboration resonate? While the smell of cooking spaghetti wafted through the kitchen, he couldn't shake off the tightening in his chest, an amalgam of hope and anxiety. "Dad, look!" Billy exclaimed, breaking through Jack's thoughts as he rushed into the room, balancing a toy pirate ship precariously in his hands. "I'm going to sail it across the dinner table." "Careful there, Captain," Jack said playfully, forcing a smile. The innocence of their son temporarily quelled his inner turmoil, if only for a moment. Lily waddled in behind, clutching her bear tightly, as if seeking comfort amidst the looming change their family faced. "Can I help set the table?" she asked, her voice small but with a hint of newfound confidence. Jack's heart warmed. She was finding her footing amidst the chaos. "Of course, sweet pea. Let's get this ready so we can have our big meeting right after dinner." The notion of a big meeting felt exaggerated, but he wanted them to grasp the importance of the moment. As they set the table together, Billy and Lily chattered excitedly about their games and friends, their carefree spirits juxtaposing Jack's internal struggle. Each clink of the plates, each excited giggle, heightened his resolve to embrace the uncertainty ahead. While Laura arranged the breadsticks, Jack leaned closer. "Do you think they'll understand, really?" he asked, keeping his voice low, laced with concern. "Just be honest and sincere. That's all they need," she replied, reflective yet firm. "We're breaking the cycle, Jack. Together." He nodded, absorbing her words as the children dashed back into the kitchen, ready to devour dinner. The table, now adorned with their creations, felt like a gathering point for the storm of emotions swirling within him. With everyone seated, laughter echoed once more as they began to eat. Jack could feel the familiar tension wrapping itself around him, but he brushed against it with gentle encouragement. "I'm really proud of you both. You've set a wonderful table." The children beamed at the compliment. Yet as he glanced at Laura, he sensed a current beneath the surface, a shared understanding of the discussions that would soon unfold. His pulse quickened, anticipation mixing with a hint of dread. "After dinner I want to talk about something important," he announced, his voice steady but laced with intensity. Both children paused, surprise etched onto their innocent faces. "It's about us, a family meeting." Lily's brow furrowed, uncertainty flickering in her eyes, while Billy, ever the adventurous spirit, shrugged it off, attributing importance to the conversation as he would to a new game. "Okay," Billy declared, raising his fork triumphantly. "So, what's our first mission, Captain Dad?" Jack chuckled lightly. "The mission is to explore how we can be our best as a family, together." Dinner proceeded with joyful chatter, interspersed with poignant glances between Jack and Laura. Yet beneath the surface of the laughter lay the unresolved questions. It was a minefield, the emotional complexity waiting to be uncovered. As the last bites of spaghetti were swallowed and plates cleared, Jack looked at his wife and children, steeling himself for what lay ahead. He felt himself standing on a precipice, ready to leap into the unknown. "All right, it's time for our family meeting," Jack said, his voice carrying a sense of gravity that made the children sit a little taller. This was it, the moment they had all been preparing for, veiled beneath layers of apprehension and hope. He could sense that their collective response to the discussion might alter their family's trajectory. Would they embrace the vulnerability he intended to share, or would they retreat into the safety of silence, leaving unspoken truths to linger? As he collected his thoughts, Jack realized this meeting was not just about sharing plans, but about breaking down walls and revealing the unvarnished truth. Outside, the world continued on, oblivious to the storm brewing within the small household. Inside, Jack felt the swirling emotions converge, but above all, he felt a flicker of determination. The children were ready and waiting, but the decision was clear. He had to confront not just the unknown but his own deepest fears. What hidden truths would rise to the surface when he laid everything bare? And would they be ready to face the risks that came with unmasking their vulnerabilities together? The room felt electric as Jack broke the silence, his gaze moving from Billy to Lily, gauging their reactions. He took a deep breath, grounding himself. "I want to start by saying how proud I am of our family. What we have is special, but we also have some challenges to face together." Lily stared at him, her bear clutched tightly, as if it could shield her from the weight of the conversation. Billy, however, leaned forward, eager yet a bit apprehensive. What kind of challenges? His tone shifted from whimsical to serious, reflecting Jack's own rising intensity. Jack swallowed hard. Well, there are things we don't talk about, things we've been avoiding. I think that if we're going to grow as a family, we need to be honest about everything, even the uncomfortable stuff. The children exchanged glances, confusion flickering across their faces. Jack pushed his chair back slightly, leaning in as if the very act could bridge the emotional chasm that lay before them. For a long time, I've been afraid of sharing my worries. I thought that if I hid them it would protect us, but all it's done is build distance. The air thickened with tension. He could feel Laura's eyes on him, silently urging him to continue. I want us to talk about our fears and hopes, to understand that we're in this together, and that it's okay to be vulnerable. Billy shifted in his seat. But what if we don't agree? What if it's scary? Jack nodded, acknowledging the apprehension that bubbled beneath the surface. It might be scary, and that's okay. We're all learning how to communicate better, even me. It's not about always agreeing. It's about being open. I want our home to be a place where we share, where you feel safe to express yourselves. Lily spoke up, her small voice rising above the unease. But what if you get mad? His heart ached. It pierced deeper than any reprimand he could have received as a parent. Mad? I won't get mad at you for sharing feelings. I may struggle with my own emotions, but your honesty is what I need. It's what we need. Jack caught Laura's eye again. He could tell she was holding her breath, sharing the weight of the moment. We're not perfect and we probably will make mistakes. But if we hide how we feel, how will we ever get closer? The room fell quiet again, as if the weight of those questions collapsed into the space around them. Jack felt his heart race, realizing this was more than just about their family dynamics. It was about him learning to accept his flaws and modeling that courage for his children. I want to share something too, Billy said, breaking through Jack's spiraling thoughts. Sometimes I feel like you guys don't see me, like I'm invisible. Each word landed like a rock, heavy and clarifying. Jack turned to Billy, seeing the truth in his son's eyes. I didn't know you felt like that. I'm sorry. I want you to feel seen. Jack's resolve sharpened. This was the moment to dig deeper, to dismantle the barriers not only in their shared dialogue but within himself. What can I do to help you feel more included, more seen? Lily chimed in, her hand twitching as if she wished to participate but needed a push. I want to be heard too. Sometimes it feels like I'm too little to matter. Jack's heart shattered and mended simultaneously. This was a revelation that underscored every fear he carried, the fear of failing his family. You both matter more than you'll ever know. I promise to listen more. Can we all try to be open? Their tentative nods were filled with hesitation and bravery. They were stepping into uncharted territory, grappling with the uncertainty of what lay ahead. As he spoke, Jack realized that the family meeting was transforming him, just as much as it was meant to guide them. But just as he felt a surge of hope, a new fear crept in. What if facing these vulnerabilities revealed wounds they weren't ready to confront? Okay, let's take turns sharing what feels hard to talk about, he urged, suppressing a tremor in his voice. The room was pulsing with potential, of connection, of emerging strengths that had long been buried. However, the tension remained taut, waiting for someone to break it, and Jack was no longer certain who would take the next step. As he inhaled deeply, the uncertain weight of their future loomed before him. Would this conversation spark the change they desperately needed, or would it plunge them deeper into their fears? Who wants to go first? He asked with a mixture of encouragement and trepidation, leading them into the unknown of their unfolding truth. Billy's eyes darted across the room, and in that charged silence, Jack could feel the weight of their anxieties pressing down like an invisible force. His son, always the one to delve deeper into conversations, seemed suddenly small and unsure, as if the request had added layers of complexity to an already dense moment. Meanwhile, Lily clutched her bear tighter, her gaze flitting between her brother and father, unsure of how to engage. "Okay, I'll go," Billy finally said, his voice steadier than Jack had expected. "Sometimes when I'm at school, I feel like I have to pretend to be someone I'm not. Like, I can't show my real self because I don't want to get teased or left out." Jack's heart sank at the admission. This was the core of Billy's struggle, festering in silence. "Thank you for sharing that, son. It's brave of you," he replied, knowing that his role was to validate and embrace his children's emotions without judgment. Lily leaned in, encouraged by Billy's courage. "I feel like that too sometimes. At dance class, I want to try new moves, but I'm afraid everyone will laugh at me." The vulnerability cascaded in waves, pulling Jack deeper into a realm he had long avoided. He grasped the enormity of their confessions and felt a visceral need to reciprocate. But how could he lay bare his struggles without overwhelming them? The very essence of their discussion was about creating a safe space, but he also wanted to shield his children from the complexities of adult fears. "Being scared of judgment is normal," Jack acknowledged thoughtfully. "But remember, it's essential to embrace who you truly are. That's what makes you special." There was a pause, and Jack reflected on their statements, questioning if the standards of vulnerability he taught should also apply to himself. Could he expose his own uncertainties while still being their anchor? He cleared his throat nervously. "I think I have something to share, too. There have been times when I've held back my fears, like the worry I'm not doing enough as your dad. I question if I'm making the right choices for our family." The children's eyes widened, the unexpected revelation adding a new layer to the conversation. He caught a glimpse of how they were processing the weight of his honesty, realizing that vulnerability often breeds connection. "But Daddy," Lily piped up, her voice shaking slightly, "you always do your best." Her faith pierced through his fog of self-doubt, yet he understood that vulnerability was a double-edged sword. Encouraging openness at home meant he had to risk opening his wounds. "It doesn't always feel that way, sweetheart. Sometimes thinking about all the things I've done wrong, or the times I've failed to listen, weighs heavily on my mind. I need you to know it's okay for us to stumble." Jack observed his children absorb this new perspective, their innocent brows furrowing as if to process the implications. "What really matters," he continued, searching for clarity, "is what we choose to do with that fear. If we can talk about it as a family, we can grow stronger. We need to support each other." The conversation had taken a turn, shifting from discomfort to understanding, yet Jack sensed the thread of anxiety still lingering in the air. Had they effectively dismantled the walls of fear, or merely scratched the surface? Billy ventured to speak again, his voice full of determination. "Then we'll support each other. If you feel that way, maybe we can help each other not feel alone." Jack felt a rush of pride. They were embracing the essence of vulnerability together, layering intimacy onto their family foundation. As he exchanged glances with Laura, Jack saw a flicker of hope mirrored in her eyes. But then doubt dropped its heavy anchor into the pit of his stomach. What if their newfound openness led to deeper issues, deeper confrontations? "Who else has something to say?" he asked, anxiety twisting into anticipation. The question still lingered. Could they truly work through this? And what dark corners of their hearts still awaited illumination? The silence lingered, pregnant with potential, holding its breath before the next revelation. The stillness fell heavily over the room, and Jack felt himself straining against the weight of unspoken fears. It was a silence that felt charged, as if the walls were listening, waiting for someone to break the tension. It was Billy who finally stirred, eyes narrowing as he seemed to grapple with his thoughts. Jack admired his son's courage, but also wondered if there was more to come. "I guess maybe I can try to be more like myself at school," Billy said, his voice softening as if the thought itself made him buoyant. "But it's really hard. What if they just make fun of me?" Jack admired his son's bravery, but a knot twisted in his stomach. The very same fears resided in him. What if they tried to be vulnerable, and the world met them with ridicule? He had dreamed of raising children who could accept their most authentic selves, yet the experience of adult life reminded him how cruel reality could be. "That's a valid worry, buddy," Jack replied, voice low and steady. But remember, those who matter will appreciate you for who you are. And sometimes, the people who tease are projecting their own insecurities. It's not about who shows up bravely, but who truly understands what it means to connect. For a moment, they were lost in thought, weighed down by a gravity the children had yet to fully comprehend. Jack knew the conversation had to extend beyond childhood fears. It was the essence of adulthood crashing like waves into the shoreline of their youthful ideologies. The faint sound of Lily's teddy bear squeaking in her grip broke the quiet. "And you won't let them hurt us, right, Daddy?" she asked, a flicker of vulnerability in her questioning eyes. Jack swallowed hard, her innocence exposed a troubling reality. "I will always do my best to protect you," he assured, though a sliver of self-doubt whispered through his mind. How could he promise such a thing when he felt so uncertain about his capabilities? A realization flashed across Billy's face. "Do you think being real at home means being real outside too? Like, if we try our hardest to be ourselves, maybe we can help other kids too?" Jack's chest tightened at the idea. It was progress beyond what he had anticipated. The thought that his children could extend their newfound understanding into a broader context was heartening, yet the challenge loomed, a task he often felt unable to undertake alone. "I think that's a beautiful idea," Jack said, his heart swelling with pride and gratitude. "Through honesty, we can inspire courage in others. You both are cultivating something powerful here." As they exchanged glances, holding on to the tentative threads of their revelations, Jack caught sight of Laura standing against the doorway. A quiet strength radiated from her. This was the woman he had always leaned on. But even in her unwavering support, he felt the weight of his insecurities, the scars he carried, hidden beneath layers of professionalism and paternal duty. He questioned silently whether he could truly bring this level of discourse into everyday life, particularly with Laura by his side. They both had their own battles, unspoken, but palpably present. Would sharing these struggles be a uniting force or fracture their bond further? Did acknowledging their vulnerabilities push them toward connection, or expose them to the risk of deeper conflict? "You know, I think we could even make a pact," Billy proposed, his enthusiasm bright, "that we'll help each other show who we really are, even at school." "Absolutely, and I will too," agreed Lily immediately, her small frame filled with determination. "Team Stumble," she declared triumphantly, the name ringing with the sincerity only children could muster. Jack laughed gently. Team Stumble it is. Yet as he joined their laughter, a darker thought shadowed his internal cheer. As they stepped into this bold world of authenticity together, how far could they push each other? What if the facade they had built around normal started to crack and splinter? The room pulsated with a new energy. Jack felt both exhilarated and terrified by the precipice of change they had approached. They stood on the edge, poised to leap into the unknown, and he sensed a lurking truth upon the horizon, something that would challenge not just their unity, but the very foundations of who they had been. "Okay, if we're really going to do this, I think we might need to come up with some ground rules to navigate our journey," Jack said, a newfound seriousness enveloping his words. The terrain was shifting below them, and he couldn't shake the feeling that something significant was starting to unfold. An unexpected tension filled the air, promising challenges and revelations in equal measure. "But what are the rules, Dad?" Lily asked eagerly, the innocence of her curiosity clashing against Jack's burgeoning sense of uncertainty. Jack took a moment, the weight of his answer heavy, as the stakes of their uncharted path began to crystallize. How would they redefine family, trust, and vulnerability from this point forward? The familiar creak of the floorboard stretched into silence, the atmosphere thick with anticipation, and a hint of foreboding as Jack prepared to guide them into a brave new territory. The tension tightened. They were about to confront not just the fears of childhood, but the complexities of family dynamics, which awaited them eagerly just beneath the surface. What transformative truths lay hidden, ready to be unearthed as they ventured deeper into their pact? The air of purpose washed over Jack like a crashing wave, invigorating yet daunting. He could feel the collective heartbeat of his family resonating around him, binding them in a space that held both promise and peril. The moment demanded action, a simple framework to navigate the complexity of their new reality. "All right, let's start with honesty," Jack proposed, his voice firmer now, gaining a surprising clarity amid his earlier doubts. We need to agree that we'll always speak the truth. That includes our feelings, worries, and thoughts. The seriousness of his tone struck a chord, as both children nodded, wide-eyed. They were not just hearing him. They were absorbing the weight of what he suggested. For Jack, this was more than just a rule. It marked the first step towards dismantling the barriers he had unconsciously maintained, even within this safe space of home. And we can decide together how to handle moments when we feel afraid or judged, he added, feeling like a teacher presenting an important lesson on life, rather than a father simply trying to keep things afloat. The realization struck him. Teaching these values would demand of him the very vulnerability he had sought to impart. Billy's brow furrowed in contemplation. But what if someone shakes our honesty? Like, what if they think it's a joke? Then we have to stick together, Jack replied, the conviction behind his answer unfurling with each word. If someone doubts us, we reassure each other. We're a team. Team Stumble. Remember? Lily giggled at the name, but Jack could see the seriousness behind her smile. She was intent on embracing his vision. Yet, in the back of his mind, Jack wrestled with his own hesitations. He recognized that vulnerability was a double-edged sword. Was he prepared to air his fears and uncertainty alongside his children? Would that fortify their bond, or would it scatter the fragile threads they were trying to weave? As if reading his thoughts, Billy's sincerity cut through the internal chaos. And what if we mess up, Dad? Doesn't honesty mean we admit when we're wrong too? The question hung in the air, a test set before him like a high-stakes wager. Jack felt exposed, the walls of resolve he had built beginning to strain. Yes, it does. It's important to own our mistakes. That's part of being real, learning from what we did wrong and supporting each other through it. Their agreement felt monumental. Jack's heart swelled with pride as he witnessed their shifting resolve. Yet an unsettling realization slithered through him. This self-discovery wasn't simply focused on the kids. What if, in coming together, he unearthed aspects of himself he had long buried? What if the very flaws he had been so careful to guard began to surface? The gravity of this thought was almost paralyzing. Jack had always believed his role was to protect, to appear unshakable. What if by allowing his children to lean into their authenticity, he was inviting them to peer into his own vulnerabilities too? Okay, Jack continued, swallowing the lump lodged in his throat. What else should we agree upon? I think it's also crucial that we respect each other's space. If someone needs time to process, we give it. Like when I get mad during my math homework, Billy piped up, his youthful clarity cutting straight to the heart. Sometimes I just need a minute. Yes, exactly like that, Jack affirmed, feeling a rush of gratitude. Respecting how we feel allows us to vocalize our struggles without feeling ashamed. That's also part of our team culture. Lily squealed in delight, pumping her fist. So, it's like we're superheroes for each other? The imagery sparked a lightness in the room. Jack realized this process was not just one of challenges. Together, they were crafting a cocoon of love and support that could lead to profound change. Yet, it remained overshadowed by that ever-present question. How would they contend with the external forces pressing in from the outside world? As the discussions deepened, Jack was invited into uncharted territory, where the greatest confrontations would not only lay ahead, but would also force him to face his own resilience like never before. They were on the brink of something deeply transformative, and with every word uttered, he felt the urgency rise. A need to fortify his family against the inevitable challenges awaiting them beyond their living room sanctuary. With that urgency cloaked in resolve, Jack knew one thing was clear. Real growth lay just a conversation away, and soon, they would have to test the strength of their newfound pact. The truth of their emotions awaited them, but at that moment, he wondered, I might be ready for this. But are they? The air crackled with expectation, and as Jack glanced around the room, the horizon of their journey shimmered with both promise and fear. Just beneath the surface lurked the unshakable notion that very soon, outside forces would come to challenge everything they had begun to build. Adversity was poised to interrupt their ascent towards authenticity. With the weight of the world pressing down and the thrill of potential lifting them higher, he knew the question loomed. Would they stand united, or would the outward world rend them apart? Jack sat in silence as the gravity of their shared intentions settled thickly in the air. The atmosphere felt electric, a palpable shift since they had begun breaking down barriers openly, but looming uncertainty lingered, promising both revelation and challenge. It was time to walk this journey together, embracing vulnerability, cultivating honesty, and nurturing courage. As they forged ahead, the room burgeoned with possibility. Jack's heart swelled with pride at the thought of his children not only engaging with their emotions, but working to embrace the complexities of growth. "All right, Team Stumble," he began, making eye contact with each eager face. "Let's make a plan to keep this openness alive. What will our first step be?" Billy raised his hand tentatively, as if waiting to be called on. "Can we have a family meeting every week, so we can talk and listen and, just be real?" Jack's heart quickened, realizing that his son was not just seeking continuity, but was also committing to an ongoing dialogue. "That's an excellent idea, Billy. Regular check-ins can help us stay connected and address any concerns as they come up." "Yes, and we can keep it fun, like a special night," Lily chimed in, excitement sparkling in her eyes. "We could make it a surprise each week," Jack chuckled softly. "A surprise meeting night, huh? I love it. Our weekly family meetings will have a blend of reflectiveness and creativity, turning serious topics into something we look forward to." "Yes," Billy echoed, and Jack watched a sense of reassurance wrap around them like a comforting blanket. They were learning to connect emotionally, and the idea of ritualizing their commitment felt exhilarating yet daunting. However, Jack grappled with the looming question: would they maintain this newfound commitment when faced with external tensions? He recalled Clara's insight, that vulnerability is not weakness, but a strength that solidifies connections. "Okay, sweeties, let's talk about something I've struggled with. You know this feeling of me not being good enough sometimes?" Jack began, tentatively breaking down his own walls. He watched their reactions carefully, gauging their grasp of emotion. "It's intimidating to allow our fears and imperfections to surface, but it's also vital." "Like the times when you get mad, Dad?" Billy prompted, his innocent perspective shining through. "It's okay to feel, but not let it show too much, right?" Jack felt an ache of gratitude swell, realizing their conversation had ignited Billy's willingness to learn about emotional complexity. "Exactly. But it's about acknowledging those moments, growing from them, and using them to inform how we act moving forward." Lily watched intently, as if weaving the pieces together. "So if we have a bad day, it's okay to say that? Even if it's silly?" "Of course. No feeling is too small or trivial," Jack affirmed, inspired by her desire to understand. "By sharing those moments, we create space to process them with each other." Against the backdrop of their earnest dialogue, Jack understood the significance of this growth. They were not merely redefining their familial dynamics, but paving the way toward deeper understanding. And this mutual vulnerability could only foster resilience. As they continued to brainstorm ideas and affirm commitments, the room vibrated with potential, coupling uncertainty with strength. Yet even while they were co-creating a vision for their future, Jack felt the pull of an invisible weight. The outside world remained a perturbing question. Would they rise together despite the challenges that lay ahead? That night, as Jack nestled into bed reflecting on the day's breakthroughs, a sense of confidence began to rise within him. The journey was only beginning. Would they produce a path leading them towards acceptance, growth, and fortitude? With every confrontation, there were relentless opportunities explosively awaiting them. Clarity settled in his heart, realizing it was not the setbacks but the lessons birthed from them that would shape their family. He was no longer the distant figure just providing security. He was a father embracing the journey of dynamic change as they ventured into the complexities of their relationships. Each day moving forward marked the opportunity for their family narrative to expand and deepen, a commitment to fostering connection that would reverberate beyond their home. What was once a fear of inadequacy transformed into a powerful resolve to do better, to be more than just the protector. He would also be the nurturer. Together, they crossed the threshold into a world blooming with authenticity, ready to face challenges and open dialogues with unwavering determination. They were embarking on a new chapter, fortifying their bonds and transforming vulnerabilities into strengths, guided by a commitment to one another that was stronger than any fear they faced. As father and children settled into new routines of shared honesty and understanding, Jack felt ready for the next challenge, the vast world outside, teeming with unpredictability. And for the first time in a long while, Jack felt confident enough to believe they would stand tall together. They had embraced vulnerability, created a pact, and together they would rise. They were Team Stumble, ready to face whatever came next. This was his moment, an indelible commitment to being a husband, father, and a man evolved, emerging not just as an individual, but as part of a wonderful family ready to thrive. And now, to you watching. If you resonate with Jack's transformative journey, you need to subscribe now to our channel. Don't let the chance to follow more emotional stories like this slip by. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your presence makes a real difference. We want to hear your thoughts, so comment your reactions and theories about this powerful conclusion. And remember, don't wait even one more second. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to be inspired by stories of personal growth. Join us on this incredible journey of overcoming.